Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into Morgan Housel's fantastic book, Same as Ever. But we're not just going to talk about the book. We're going to apply its lessons directly to what you're dealing with. You know, the unique pressures and opportunities we all face as professionals and managers right here in Taiwan.
You know, we're all kind of obsessed with this question, right? What's next? We're always trying to guess the next big tech breakthrough, the next market swing, or, that one skill we have to learn just to stay in the game. But what if we're asking the wrong question entirely? What if the real key, the thing that gives you a lasting edge, isn't about chasing every new trend? What if it's about focusing on the stuff that never changes? The timeless stuff. And that, right there, is the heart of this book. Morgan Housel's whole point is that, the technology changes, the headlines are always different, but human nature, our basic behaviors like greed, fear, our little biases, even envy, that stuff, it's the same as it ever was. I love this example because it's so simple, but it really shows the power of things that don't change. See, when you understand these constants about people, you can build your career, your financial plan, on solid rock instead of shifting sand. And believe me, that is so much more powerful than trying to guess what's coming next. Okay, so let's get down to it. We've pulled out 5 big, unchanging truths from the book, and we're going to connect them directly to the stuff you're probably dealing with at work, like right now. All right, first up, risk. Now, we spend a ton of time planning for the challenges we can actually see coming, right? The known problems. But here is Housel's big insight. Real risk, true risk, is what's left over after you think you've covered all your bases. It's the total surprise, the thing that came out of left field and was on absolutely no one's radar. Just think about that in your own career for a second. You could have this perfect 5-year plan all mapped out, and then, boom, it gets totally wiped out by one single event you weren't even paying attention to. That's the real nature of risk. You know, the biggest risks aren't always coming from the outside. Sometimes they're internal. And that brings us to our next big truth, this constant game we all play, the battle between what we expect and what we actually get. It's fascinating, right? Things can get objectively, measurably better for us. But if our expectations are rising even faster, we'll actually feel worse. It's because happiness, it turns out, is always relative. And this example just hits the nail on the head. Housel's point is that the world isn't really driven by greed so much as it's driven by envy. And let's be real, social media has put this whole thing on steroids. It creates this massive gap between our reality and our expectations that's almost impossible to close. Okay, this next one is for anyone out there who's ever had to convince somebody, your boss, your team, a client, anybody to do something. Now, this is a real game changer, especially if you're in a leadership role. Get this. The best idea doesn't always win. Nope. The idea with the best story wins. Facts are great. They inform us. But it's stories that actually persuade us to act. It's that story, that human connection, that really moves the needle. You have to remember, decision makers are just people, and people are moved by things that make them feel something, not just by dry numbers on a spreadsheet. Okay, let's talk about something that completely messes with our heads when it comes to making decisions about our money and our careers. And it's because our brains, they just weren't built for the world we live in today. So what happens is we see some 1 in a million success story on the news, and suddenly we think, hey, that could be me. We totally overestimate the odds. But then when the market takes a totally normal dip, something that happens all the time, we panic. It's because our brains want a simple yes or no, not some fuzzy 60% probability. And this is our brain craving certainty. You see those news reports about someone who made a fortune overnight in crypto or some tech stock, and it makes your steady 0.005 investment feel kind of boring, right? It tempts you to chase that lottery ticket win, even though we know statistically that the slow and steady approach is way more reliable. Okay, our final truth. This one is about the things that are absolutely crucial for long-term success, but you will never, ever see them measured on a quarterly report. Look, we're all obsessed with metrics and KPIs, right? Especially in our fast-paced work culture here. But that focus can make us totally blind to the human stuff that actually decides if a team or a company is going to make it in the long run. Things like trust, reputation, morale. So here's the bottom line. These unmeasurable things, they're the real leading indicators. They're like the check engine light for your team.
The numbers on the spreadsheet, those are lagging indicators. They're the smoke pouring out from under the hood. By the time you see that, it's often way too late.
Okay, so now what? What do we actually do with all this? Let's make it super practical. Think of this next part as a little internal memo that you can send to yourself. All right, here's your new playbook, step by step. Number 1, build a surprise fund. And I don't just mean money. This is about having a backup skill or a side project ready to go for those risks you can't see coming. Number 2, practice information subtraction. This is huge for managing expectations. Go through your social media and just unfollow the accounts that trigger that envy. Curate your own reality. Number 3, tell the story first. The next time you need to persuade someone, don't lead with the data. Frame it all in a compelling story first. That's how you win. Number 4, define your sleep well risk level. You know your brain craves certainty, so decide ahead of time what level of investment risk you can handle without panicking, the level that lets you sleep at night. And finally, number 5, schedule non-KPI time. To focus on the unmeasurable, you have to literally put time on the calendar for it. Have meetings just to share wins and build trust. That's the stuff that really matters. Okay, as we wrap things up here, I want to leave you with one last question to chew on. It's a question that really ties all of this together. Really thinking about this? That's the secret sauce. It's the first step to building a career and a life that's not just ready for a changing world, but is also built to work with your own unchanging self.